to WDEV at radiovermont.com.
The energy. How does anybody live and drive in Boston every single day? This guy stopped in the middle of the road with his hazard lights on. This guy won't yield. That guy won't let you go. That guy passes in front of you. That guy goes 3 lanes of traffic all in one shot. How does anybody do this?
The passion.
Look, if the Red Sox aren't going to play Yoshida and Devers as they're about to get swept, then we might as well just give up and go home.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
I'm glad that Mac Jones looks better. That's really important. He needs to look better. But if it were a video game, he'd still have an overall rating of 76, and that ain't cutting it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Short show tonight. We're on from 5:30 until 6:10. Then we bring you Red Sox baseball. Sox taking on the Houston Astros. I mean, we've said it before. This is the biggest series of the year for the Red Sox, right? There's not just one biggest series of the year. There's the biggest series of the year at that moment. First, it was the Blue Jays series. Then it was the first Astros series. Now it's this Astros series. See what happens. The Red Sox are trying to catch the Astros right now. They haven't. They're not as good as Texas right now. They're not as good as Seattle right now. They've got a chance to catch Houston, and that chance comes into much clearer fruition if they're able to take care of business in this series, something that they weren't able to do in the last series in Houston when they split the 4-game set, and something they weren't able to do this weekend against the Dodgers, losing 2 of 3. So we're up until 6:10. We'll give you the lineups coming up here at about 6:05. Evan Lazar from Patriots.com is going to stop by in about 15 minutes. You can get in on the text line, 802-585-3026. That's 802-585-3026. Danny, Lego.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, now at Rouse's Point, New York as well, and online at sticksandstuff.com, also the Swanton Lumber location. So the Patriots swung 2 trades yesterday. Right now, the cut down day is tomorrow. Patriots got to go from 90 players to 53 players by tomorrow at 4 p.m. So by the time we have tomorrow's show, we will know the Patriots' 53-man roster. So as they are getting down to that 53, they have made some trades. They swung 2 trades yesterday for a pair of offensive linemen. They traded running back Pierre Strong Jr. to the Cleveland Browns for tackle Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Tyrone Wheatley, I believe, Tyrone Wheatley Sr., the old running back for the Giants and the Raiders, was a guy who's, when the Raiders got to the Super Bowl against the Bucs, Tyrone Wheatley was one of their lead backs there. So Tyrone Wheatley Jr. comes to the Patriots. And then the Patriots traded a future draft pick to the Vikings for a second-year lineman named Verdarian Lowe. I'm not going to pretend to have the scoop on Tyrone Wheatley Jr. or Verdarian Lowe, right? I can't tell you anything about the offensive lineman that the Patriots traded for yesterday. But these 2 trades, they do tell you something. They do give you a couple of keys here. Number 1 is that Bill Belichick also sees that the offensive line is a problem for this team, right? I don't have to know anything about Verdarian Lowe or Tyrone Wheatley Jr., but if Bill Belichick on the eve of cutdown day is going out to acquire 2 more offensive linemen, he clearly sees the offensive line as a problem, right? I hope you all think that that's a fair assessment. 802-585-3026. We've talked about all offseason how the offensive line looks weak, how the offensive line is not going to be a bully enough to go out and make this the run-first team that everybody tells us it's going to be. How the offensive line is not going to be able to allow Mac Jones to be Alabama Mac like he wants to be and be able to play with the freedom and confidence that he did in college. Okay, the offensive line is a problem. It was a problem in the Week 1 preseason game against Houston. The starting offensive line was a problem in the Week 2 game against Green Bay. This line has questions in terms of health and dependability when you talk about Trent Brown. It has questions in depth, in the area of depth. Calvin Anderson, a guy who they got from Denver in the offseason, hasn't played yet at all this preseason. That's a guy I think you were counting on who hasn't been there. So by going out and getting 2 offensive linemen here at the 11th hour right before cutdown day, the Patriots are telling you we acknowledge and see that the offensive line has been a problem. And it's because of that I'm really bothered by something that Bill Belichick said earlier today on WEEI in Boston. Danny, I will play this, but Bill Belichick was on the Greg Hill show on WEEI, and he was asked about kind of the lack of depth, the lack of investment previously in the offensive line. And here's what Belichick said.
Well, we drafted 3 players on the offensive line. Not really sure what you're referring to. We signed Riley Reef. We drafted 3 players on the offensive line. Andrews, Trent Brown, on Wainu and Strange are all returning. They're returning stars for us. So, and we drafted 3 players and signed 1. So, I mean, I'm not really following you.
This is what bothers people about Belichick. Belichick pushes back on the idea that the Patriots have offensive line problems. Buddy, you are telling us the Patriots have offensive line problems. You just went and traded for 2 offensive linemen. You have told us, like you have shown us in your actions that the Patriots offensive line is a problem. You have shown us that you didn't have enough depth there and or the players you had weren't good enough there. So yeah, we drafted 3 players and we signed 1 and we did yeah. But you know what? Either those players aren't good enough or those players aren't healthy enough to be able to help you in the way that you thought. Don't insult the guys over at WEEI by basically calling them morons when you are the one who has shown us that this area that we all thought was a problem, that we've all identified as a problem, you have shown us it is a problem. Because if the Patriots were doing great at the offensive line spot, guess what? They wouldn't be making trades at the 11th hour. Yes, the Patriots had bodies. Yes, the Patriots made moves, but the Patriots still clearly don't feel good enough about their offensive lineman group, period, or otherwise they wouldn't be making these moves. Danny, fair or foul on this?
No, it's fair.
I mean, of course it's fair.
Belichick is always dismissive, though. That's his thing, right?
Well, he's always good, yes, but still, that seemed a little bit more contentious than usual for Belichick. Peter says, I like Belichick being aggressive prior to cutdown day because you don't know if you can get a waiver claim after tomorrow. That's true. Like, I'm glad that Belichick here is acknowledging that there's a problem, but he's telling us there's a problem in his actions and then calling the WEEI guys morons for questioning if they had issues there. That's what I don't like. So that's number 1. Okay, these moves signify that the Patriots clearly feel things are problematic in the offensive line room. But number 2, what these moves signify is that this team is counting a lot on Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, this team is counting a lot on Ezekiel Elliott. The Patriots traded Pierre Strong Jr., a second-year running back, a young running back, a guy they took in the 4th round of the draft last year. They traded him to the Cleveland Browns in this trade. So if you're trading away second-year running backs who you drafted in the 4th round, somebody you clearly saw something, and if you're trading that guy away, you clearly feel good about the depth you have in-house, a.k.a. you feel good about Ezekiel Elliott. A lot has come now on Ezekiel Elliott's plate. We all thought and said, I think fairly, that Ezekiel Elliott was going to be a big part of this team, that he's going to be a guy that they go to on short yardage situations and in goal line situations, that Ezekiel Elliott has a role. We all said that right from the beginning. But now there is pressure on Ezekiel Elliott to perform and to stay healthy because a guy who could come and usurp, that's a fancy word for take over, a guy who could overtake Ezekiel Elliott is now gone. Okay, we all thought I thought the Patriots were lacking running back depth, really. After losing Damian Harris and bringing in a watered-down Ezekiel Elliott, I thought the Patriots were still kind of net negative on where they were a year ago. Well, evidently they don't see it that way, but also they've whittled away what depth they had in the running back room in making this trade. So, like, what are we down to now? Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, Kevin Harris, and J.J. Taylor? And then someday, maybe, if he's ever healthy again, Ty Montgomery. Like, that's kind of where the Patriots are at right now at the running back position. That, to me, is not a great sounding running back room. But the Patriots are telling you, we feel good about Zeke because that's why we were willing to move on from Pierre Strong Jr. I mean, maybe they just think Pierre Strong Jr. can't play, and maybe it's a situation where, they just cut their losses and go get something for a guy that they don't think could do anything. But I doubt that to be the case. Like, if they drafted Pierre Strong Jr. in the 4th round, I think they see something in him. And I think to move on from him was probably a tough call. But by doing so, I think they're telling you Ezekiel Elliott might have more in the tank than I've initially thought, or that or that they think he's got more in the tank than everybody else does. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Glenn from Brookfield says, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. is a career practice squad player, shows the need for the Patriots. Hey, whatever he is, then Bill Belichick is telling us, like, we don't feel good about where we're at in that room. So David Andrews, I feel good about. Trent Brown, I don't trust that he can stay healthy or be dependable. Michael Wayne has done a good job, but he's kind of moved around various different positions. We'll see where he sticks and how he's going to be. Cole Strange last year had kind of an up and down rookie year. I think I can count on him. After that, we don't really know what to make of the Patriots line, and the reports haven't been very good. Our evidence hasn't been very good in preseason games, and even when the starters have played, it wasn't particularly strong. Offensive line is a problem, has been a problem, and Bill Belichick's telling you it's been a problem by going out and getting 2 new ones this weekend. Will says, I'm puzzled the Patriots are committed to Mac Jones, who needs a decent offensive line but doesn't get one. This is a problem they've had a year to solve. You're preaching to the choir. You are preaching to the choir. What have I said for years? This is not rocket science. This is not an original take by me, but it's something I've said for years. When you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, okay, you are afforded the luxury of being able to surround that rookie quarterback with help, right? This is how it works. Why have we always said that having a rookie contract quarterback is like the best thing you can have in football? Because you are allowed to go out and purchase stars to help that rookie quarterback, right? I think about my Seahawks. This is going back a ways, but 2013, the Seahawks have a rookie contract, Russell Wilson. What were they able to do as a luxury? They're able to go out and have a Michael Bennett and a Cliff Averill to make the defense better. And they're able to go get a Percy Harvin, who gets a game-changing play in the Super Bowl and returns a kickoff for a touchdown. That's what happens, right? I look at the Rams, who the Patriots beat a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl. They have a rookie contract, Jared Goff. They're able to go trade for. Man, I'm getting my Rams years mixed up here. I don't think they had Jalen. I think they did have Jalen Ramsey at that time, if I'm remembering correctly. But nonetheless, they've gotten Brandon Cooks. They've gotten Jalen Ramsey. They've gone out and made all kinds of moves to go and better their squad in a time when they had a rookie quarterback under contract. I mean, I just look around the league. This is what happens. And the Patriots seem unwilling to do that. They have given Mac Jones a defense. I appreciate that. But the offensive line and the offensive weaponry hasn't been there in the way it's been for other teams. In the way that it's been for other teams. I look at the Seahawks last year, right? Geno Smith, not a rookie quarterback, but a cheap quarterback. Pay DK Metcalf. Pay Tyler Lockett. Go out and get some free agent guys that can help. Patriots have been unable or unwilling to do this. Texter says, yeah, it was a contentious answer by Belichick, but it shows he's under a lot of pressure. I don't know what it shows. I think Belichick was being a jerk kind of unnecessarily, and I think those guys are right to call him out for the way the offensive line has been handled, because Bill Belichick clearly is showing us by making these moves that the offensive line hasn't been handled correctly. And finally, Peter says, to Belichick's defense, if he announced before making trades, perhaps teams might have been able to get more in return than the Pats wanted to give up. That doesn't matter. These trades were made on Sunday. This interview was done on Monday. So I think Bill Belichick, it would have been fair for him to say, he doesn't need to say, hey, the guys we have stink. But he could have said, yeah, we made 2 moves for offensive linemen. We really wanted to strengthen that room. We felt that these moves gives us more depth. We felt that these moves will give us a better overall offensive line room, which will allow us to do more things offensively. It's that simple. It's that simple, rather than saying, we made 3 moves here and we drafted 3 guys and we signed 1 and I don't know what you're referring to. Bill, if the offensive line situation was good, you wouldn't be going out to get guys on the line that no one's ever heard of in Tyrone Wheatley Jr. and Verdarian Lowe. You're kind of telling us we're a little bit desperate. on that note, let's talk more Patriots. Let's go out to the phone line and bring on Evan Lazar, our guy over at Patriots.com, back on the show for the second time in as many years. Yes, second time in as many years. We've had Evan on before. He's great from Patriots.com. He's with us now. Evan, appreciate you being with us. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Brady?
Doing well as well. Good to have you on the show again. Let's kind of start at the beginning of the weekend, the Friday night game against Tennessee. Not a lot of reps for players, so we know we're going to be major contributors to this Patriots team. Was there anything discernible you took away from Friday?
A couple of individual players, I think, stood out in that game. I would say for the Patriots, like you said, I'm not going to get too caught up in the team execution part of that game, since a lot of those guys aren't going to be out there against the Eagles in a couple of weeks. But a few guys that did stand out: Marty Mapu, the Patriots' third-round pick. That was his first game action of the preseason. Some, so-so, right? Like, obviously, first time out, it's not going to be perfect for a rookie, but I thought what really showed was his play speed and his physicality. Made some great tackles. One on Tajay Spears, traveled about 36 yards on it at 19.5 miles an hour at 230 pounds. So that is some next gen for you, and that is some moving for Marty Mapu. So I think they're excited about what the rookie can do. He can play at multiple levels, can play some safety, can play in the box. And you look at all these offenses that they're going to go up against that got a ton of speed. They like to spread the field. I think the Patriots are looking for answers against those types of offenses that they haven't had the last couple of years, and Mapu might be a key.
Let's talk about kind of moving into Saturday and Sunday. Patriots made a couple of trades for offensive linemen, and I thought your take on Twitter was really interesting, or X, I guess now we call it. But I thought your take on social media was really good. Like, we've all talked about wide receivers and skill position players, but what the Pats have had to do here at the end of camp to cover for the offensive line represents kind of a failure of the offseason.
Yeah, look, I think we all love receivers, and myself included. I'll own it. I love talking receivers. I love looking at receivers for the Patriots, and maybe they had some chances to get some guys in the first round of the draft: Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison. But I don't think anybody in New England is lamenting Christian Gonzalez right now. I think we're all pretty happy that they made that pick and added a top cornerback in the draft. So you take the first round of the draft out of it. I suppose they could have paid DeAndre Hopkins, but obviously that didn't go their direction with him going to Tennessee. Maybe that's the second guess at receiver, but it wasn't like a receiver offseason where a ton of big names moved. Other than Hopkins, and we didn't see it like the last couple of years where you had Adams and Hill and Diggs and like those types of level of receivers move. So when I look at the tackle spot, there were quite a bit of free agent tackles that could have helped this football team that moved this offseason. Orlando Brown, for example, a guy like Mike McGlinchey, those are guys that were available in free agency. And the Patriots instead decided to throw really not very many big assets at the tackle position. They signed Riley Reif, a 14-year vet, 34 years old. Thought his play at tackle started to decline last year with the Chicago Bears. Calvin Anderson, who's been on the non-football illness list for all of training camp, is another guy that started 12 games in 3 years, not exactly a big ticket tackle. And then they drafted Sidy Sow in the fourth round and are moving him from guard in college to tackle in the pros. So that's obviously a big transition that he's undergoing. So my whole take on it is that they didn't really throw a big asset at the tackle spot. And I thought last year, for all the coaching dysfunction and issues that they had on the offensive side of the ball, right tackle was their weakest position on the entire roster. And they didn't really do very much to go out and fix that problem other than throwing a bunch of names into a hat and hoping that they, hit on a lottery ticket. And I just don't really think that handling of that position was very good. I understand second guessing is easy in hindsight, but I really felt this way going all the way back to the end of the draft when they didn't walk away with a day one answer at right tackle or free agency for that matter. And now we see them scrambling in the 11th hour by making these trades at the tackle position.
Evan Lazar, Patriots.com, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show, WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. And one of those trades for an offensive line player, the Patriots gave up running back Pierre Strong, a guy they took in the fourth round last year. The Patriots, we think, are going to be a ball control, run-based team. They have Ramondre Stevenson. They've lost Damian Harris. Is Ezekiel Elliott enough to make up the Damian Harris difference? Because I personally didn't think that was the case and thought maybe there was a role for Strong, but they've moved on from him.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Zeke, that's what Belichick basically said this morning when we spoke to him, was they added Zeke. They felt like they had some running back depth. I just went over their issues on the offensive line. So they traded from an area that they found like they had a surplus for an area of need by adding the tackle, Tyrone Wheatley Jr. from Cleveland. So I think with Strong, it's two things. Belichick shot it down this morning, but I still feel like it's relevant that last year they did experiment with that whole outside zone thing, and Pierre Strong with his speed was certainly a great fit for that scheme, and he ran that scheme a lot in college. And then you get here and it doesn't go well with Patricia. Then they move back on to Bill O'Brien, and now it's a totally different run scheme and a totally different set of a skill set of what they're looking for at that position. So I think that's a part of it. I don't think he was a great scheme fit in what Bill O'Brien was asking him to do, but I also just think that the Patriots are going to be a downhill power run team that is going to really feature Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott. I was a little disappointed that they moved on from Strong so quickly. I think the one thing, I like Ramondre a ton. Zeke is fine. They don't really have a change of pace back. They don't have that guy that can come on the field and add some speed. I still feel like their offense as a whole is pretty slow, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to make up for in different ways. But it's an interesting trade with Pierre Strong. I really think that they drafted him to play a different role that really never materialized once they switched back to O'Brien.
You talk about the Patriots being slow offensively. One guy who's not slow is Tyquan Thornton. At the receiver position, look, Parker, Bourne, Juju, those three are safe. And then Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, Thornton. How does it shake out? 6 wide receivers, the 5, and Thornton's on the IR to kind of keep him around. Where are we looking at receiver-wise?
Initially, I think they're going to keep 6. Now, Thornton might end up on the injured reserve list after the cut-down day so that he's eligible to return once he's fully healthy. I could see that happening. But I think initially on Tuesday, they have 6 receivers on this roster. And the main reason why is that Boutte and Douglas have both just shown too much promise for a team that's been searching for wide receiver talent over the last couple of years to just walk away from those 2 guys as rookies. And I think on top of the fact that they've shown some promise to maybe make some initial contributions, you also have to look at the long-term plan at the receiver position. They have Devontae Parker and Juju under contract, and of course Tyquan, but we don't know what they're really going to have in Tyquan, maybe nothing based off of how it's gone for the first year plus. And Parker and Juju are 2 guys that are getting up there in age and have played a lot of football in the NFL. So you look at those 2 guys, and then Tyquan, that's only 3 guys that are under contract. Kendrick Bourne's going to be a free agent and is probably going to be due some money because I think he's going to have a big year for the Patriots this year. So I wonder, looking at it from a 2024 and beyond point of view, you got to keep the cupboard stocked a little bit. And I think that Boutte and Douglas have both shown enough that you could think, all right, maybe they're somewhat contributing this year, but maybe in smaller roles. And then in year 2 for both those guys, they can elevate to maybe even bigger roles if the arrow continues to point upward. I think there's a path for Douglas to play right away just because of his skill set. He's got that speed. He's got that shiftiness, jitterbug-like player out of the slot. They don't really have one of those guys other than him on the roster at the receiver position. The other guys are bigger, kind of stronger at the catch point type of players, whereas Douglas has that shiftiness and that speed. So I think he's going to have a role right away. Boutte, I feel like, is more of a stash for the long term in terms of what I just broke down about their future at the position. But either way, I think both guys are too good to walk away from.
If we're getting to a point where Demario Douglas is playing out of the slot, then we're playing probably a 3 wide receiver set. But all along, I thought we were playing 2 tight ends and being a power running team with Gesicki and Hunter Henry. So kind of how do we see the breakdown going formationally for the Patriots?
Yeah, I definitely think that you'll still see a lot of 2 tight ends, and certainly in their base formations on first and second down, they'll be pretty 2 tight end heavy. But I think one of the things that O'Brien does really well is he loves to run empty, 5 wide empty. We know like plays like Haas Juke and stuff like that have been famous around here in New England for years. And those empty formations, he loves to mess with the personnel. So you think it's 12, but then we're going to come out and empty. And we got guys like Henry and Gesicki that can run routes from the outside. These are tight ends that are pretty good receivers that can run routes from the outside. So I think they're still going to be pretty heavy on the 12 personnel. And I look at Douglas and some of the roles that we know that O'Brien likes in the middle of the field, that number 2 and number 3 spot out of the slot. We've seen it with Edelman and Welker and those types of guys. The shiftiness is key. You got to have your quickest player be in the inside there to win those one-on-one matchups with the route running. And I think Douglas fits that mold for what they really need that position to do. So as much as I like the veteran guys that they have, and I think Parker and Juju and Bourne will play a ton, I do wonder if Douglas is just different enough to add that flavor that they're missing, because they really haven't had that jitterbug in the slot since Edelman retired. They just haven't had that guy that can get open in a 5-yard window and make something happen with the football in his hands. And I think Douglas has shown that a little bit in camp.
Finally, I get you out of here on this. Ironically enough, one of my favorite Patriots and a guy I'm always excited to watch and key in on is a guy I didn't really hear much about all of camp. Where are we at with Marcus Jones?
So Marcus Jones had a weird camp, I think. He didn't really play very much in the preseason games. He's played a lot in the slot, as you would expect on the defensive side of the ball, and he's returning kicks, exactly how you kind of projected it. In terms of his offense, we haven't seen them use him on offense at all in the spring or the summer. But I think that that's going to happen anyways, maybe. But I don't think they want to show their hand too much on what exactly they're going to do with Marcus Jones on the offensive side of the ball if he is going to play over there. I still think he's their best man corner to play in the slot other than Jonathan Jones. And if they have to continue to play Jonathan Jones more on the outside, I would like to see Marcus Jones play in the slot in man situations, or when they go up against Miami, for instance, and they got all that speed on the field. He's the perfect guy to go ahead and match up against a Waddle or a Hill to try to just run with them down the field. I don't think they have a guy like that other than him besides John Jones, and you have those two that can really match up against the Dolphins receivers. But it's been a little bit of an up and down camp for him at corner, I would say, and Miles Bryant is still sticking around and making a good push for that nickel role as well, and they're going to use Jalen Mills in a little bit more of a nickel or safety role to this season. So I'm not exactly sure where Marcus Jones fits in yet. Maybe it's just as a utility man where he's every week it's where he needs to be, and whether it's playing in the slot or it's just returning or it's gadget up plays on offense, and they kind of just let him be a Swiss Army knife. But I thought that they would be a little bit more committed to him playing in the slot than they have been so far. And then they've also really held him out of the preseason for the most part. So we'll see what ends up happening in the season. It's kind of a weird camp for him.
Well, we're on to week one. On to week one against the Philadelphia Eagles. It'll be Tom Brady Day at Gillette Stadium. Evan Lazar, Patriots.com, with us here on your home for Patriots football. WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Evan, appreciate it. We'll do it again here as the season gets going.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it. There goes Evan Lazar over at Patriots.com. Yeah, it has been a weird camp for Marcus Jones. This is a guy who I loved last year heading into the season. We saw him do some very interesting things, particularly at the end of the season last year, right? Playing offense, scoring that touchdown against Buffalo on that Thursday night game, having, I think it was a fumble recovery against Cincinnati, which I think was a Christmas Eve game. Again, week 15 or so. So Marcus Jones is a guy who had an impactful rookie season. He had the walk-off punt return against the New York Jets. And then we really didn't hear about him all camp. And I was expecting to talk about him. I was expecting to talk about him a lot. And I don't know that I heard anybody really mention his name. I didn't hear him mentioned much as a special teams guy even, or a defensive player, or an offensive weapon. I hope he's in line for a big role this season, because I do think with his athleticism, he has something the Patriots have generally lacked, which is that athleticism. As Evan says, I think he's their best cover guy in the slot, and he's the guy who can run with guys. Jonathan Jones can run with guys. Marcus Jones is the only other guy they have that can really run with guys. Texter says, love the insight about the Pierre Strong trade and maybe him not fitting with this new Bill O'Brien offense. Yeah, that was interesting. Evan certainly is much closer to the Patriots offense than I am from kind of an X's and O's standpoint. Maybe Pierre Strong Jr. didn't fit, but Bill Belichick, he says, did acknowledge that we feel good enough about Zeke that we felt that Pierre Strong Jr. was expendable. Red Sox getting ready for the Astros. We'll set the stage. We'll get you the lineup. We'll tell you the exciting Red Sox news coming up after CBS News on DEV.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush at 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield. In Barrie at 96.5. In Montpelier at 98.3. Along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury, Montpelier. Streaming at WDEVradio.com. 92 years of serving Vermont. The friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Wendy Gillette in New York. Millions in Florida are preparing for Tropical Storm Idalia. CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides from Tampa.
Automatic sandbagging machines are running around the clock in Tampa, Florida. All along Florida's Gulf Coast, hurricane watches are up as Idalia nears.
So we're prepping and hoping for the best.
Life-threatening storm surge and hurricane-force winds could arrive as early as Tuesday, and the storm's predicted to make landfall Wednesday north of Tampa.
But anything that wobbles with this storm could change that. So pretty much anybody on the west coast of Florida, I mean, you can see major impact.
A shelter-in-place order is lifted at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, after a shooting. Officials just said at a news conference a faculty member was killed. A judge has set March 4th as the trial date for former President Donald Trump's federal election interference case. CBS's Major Garrett on the political implications of what will play out in the courtroom.
All that bluster on the outside that works politically has no purchase inside a courtroom. It's not allowed. It's not part of evidence. It's not part of the facts. It's not part of the law. And the world shrinks around defendants then. What's going to be the great question for former President Trump and Republicans who still admire and want to support him is, does that process of getting smaller and the limitations imposed by actual court procedures change their view of the law, of him, and his political potency in 2024. That, to me, is the great variable of this political season.
Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, took the witness stand in court, asking a judge to move his charges in the Georgia election interference case to federal court. The man known as Joe the Plumber during the 2008 presidential campaign has died. This was him questioning candidate Barack Obama about his tax plan in Toledo, Ohio.
My name is Joe Wurzelbach. What is it, Joe? I'm getting ready to buy a company that makes $250,000, $270,000, $80,000 a year. Your new tax plan is going to tax me more, doesn't it?
He was 49 years old. There's growing concern about COVID for some as children head back to school amid rising cases. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
We know that COVID-19 vaccinations are the safest protection for avoiding hospitalization, long-term health outcomes, and death. And that is why we are going to continue to encourage Americans to stay up to date on their vaccines.
On Wall Street, stocks gained. The Dow added 213 points. The S&P finished 27 points higher. This is CBS News.
You need to hire fast and hire right? You need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates efficiently. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Hi, this is Radio Vermont weather forecaster Roger Hill. Join me for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to the White Continent, Antarctica. We'll fly together from Burlington on January 24th next year, and after a night on the town in Buenos Aires, Argentina, will board our private charter flight to Ushuaia and embark on the World Navigator crossing the infamous Drake's Passage. Accompanied by petrels and albatrosses, we'll see the South Shetland Islands and the Antarctic Peninsula alongside the hourglass dolphins and humpback whales. We'll see rugged mountain peaks, black sands, and expensive tundra while enjoying shore landings led by expert field guides. We'll get up close to nature, paddling next to icebergs, seals, whales, and of course the emblem of Antarctica, the penguin. Prices start at $10,000 per person. I hope you'll join me. Contact your Milne Travel Advisor. Call 800-78-MILNE or email help@milnetravel.com. That's 9 nights of cruising Antarctica with me, Roger Hill. Contact Milne Travel for more information.
Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
This is Freddie Coleman of ESPN, and you're listening to Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV at WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Red Sox baseball comes up about 5 minutes from now. Here's the situation at hand. The Red Sox enter this series with the Houston Astros at 4.5 games back in the American League wildcard chase. They are taking on the Houston Astros right now in this series. That's the team that they're 4.5 games back of. You have to capitalize if you're the Red Sox. Okay. Do you have to sweep? No. But do you have to win the series? Absolutely, 100%. If the Red Sox win this series, then they do gain a game in the standings. They also would gain the season tiebreaker over Houston, which would be huge as well. You only get so many chances with 30-plus games left in the season to play against the teams you're directly chasing, right? They're going to see Houston now. They're going to see Texas again later this season. They're going to have a chance to make up some ground against them. They're tied with Houston as well, so the Sox are 4.5 games behind Texas also. Beyond that, you're just rooting for teams to lose. The time is now, and the Red Sox have to capitalize. I am very, very excited right now to watch this game tonight, watch this series, because the Red Sox have called up their number 3 overall prospect, Ceddanne Rafaela. I don't know how long he's going to be here for, right? Jarren Duran's on the injured list. Wilyer Abreu, who they brought up, who made a big impact last week against Houston, has been put on the paternity list. So maybe this is just a very short call-up for Rafaela. Maybe he goes right back down to AAA when Abreu gets back. But the rosters expand on September 1st, so maybe Abreu or maybe Rafaela is here to stay. We don't know how it's going to shake out, but this is a guy who's got an electric skill set for the Red Sox, and we've talked so much about this team kind of being devoid of prospects. Well, here you go. Here's one, right? We've seen Duran. We've seen Casas. Now you've got Rafaela, the 22-year-old outfielder who's got 20 home runs this season at the minor league level, 79 RBIs, and 36 stolen bases. So he's got a power-speed combo, unlike anything the Red Sox really have at the major league level, right? They've got guys who can run like Duran, who don't offer 20 home run power right now. They've got guys with power like Devers, who don't offer 36 stolen base, potential. Story, when he's right, offers some of that, but Rafaela is a unique skill set the Red Sox haven't really had. 302 average, 350 on base percentage. Who knows how it's going to translate? He's a guy who does not walk very much, right? So he could come in here and K a lot and never get on base, or he could come on and use the power and speed and be an absolute asset here for however long he's up. We don't know how long that's going to be, but, Marcelo Meyer, Tristan Casas, Nick York, Ceddanne Rafaela, you're starting to see some of the fruits of Chaim Bloom's farm system labor come to fruition. Danny, the music. The Astros are 74-58. The Red Sox are 69-62. And again, there's 4.5 games separating these two teams in the wild card race. Christian Javier, who the Red Sox saw last week, right? Remember, they hit the 3-run homer off him, Adam Duvall, in the first inning. He's on the mound for Houston, 9-2 with a 4.52 ERA. Chris Sale for the Sox, 5-3 with a 4.68. Jose Altuve leads off at second. Alex Bregman's at third. Yordan Alvarez plays left today for Houston. Kyle Tucker's in right. Jose Abreu's back from the injured list. The Red Sox didn't have to deal with him most of last series. He's at first. Chas McCormick's in center. Yanier Diaz is the DH. Jeremy Pena at short. Martin Maldonado is the catcher. He bats ninth. For the Sox, Alex Verdugo, who had 3 home runs to lead off games in a row before yesterday, he leads off again in right. Rafi Devers is at third. Justin Turner's the DH. Masataka Yoshida plays today. He's in left. Adam Duvall is in center. Casas at first. Story at short. Connor Wong is the catcher. Luis Arias is at second, and he bats ninth. Pablo Reyes hits the injured list, so he is out. Good to see Devers back in. Got hit on the wrist in that game on Saturday. X-rays negative on his wrist there. That was a scary moment. I am out tomorrow. Lee is going to be filling in for me. I'm going to be hanging out at the U.S. Open tennis tournament for Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm very, very excited about that. We got no show on Wednesday because of Red Sox baseball against the Astros. So I will see you again on Thursday. Thanks to Evan Lazar for stopping by. That interview available on our podcast channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. Thanks to Danny for producing and engineering the show perfectly as always. I will see you Thursday. Red Sox baseball is next on your home for the Sox. WDEV AM and FM.
It's time